Marcus collapsed into the snow. The boy had jumped from behind a tree and latched onto his neck. But he wasn't asking for help. He wasn't crying. He was clawing at Marcus, digging his fingernails into his skin like sharp hooks. You ever notice how sometimes the weather just feels wrong? Like everything looks normal, but something about it just doesn't sit right. So this story comes from a guy named Marcus. He lives out in Washington State, deep in the Pacific Northwest. Now if you know that area, rain is normal. Snow, sometimes. But what happened that night wasn't normal at all. Marcus was just sitting by his window reading, relaxing. Outside, a few light snowflakes started drifting down. Nothing unusual. But then, within seconds, it turned into a complete whiteout. Snow was falling so hard he could barely see the trees outside his house. Now here's the strange part. Marcus checked his weather app, and it said, "No snow expected tonight. Clear skies." That was the first moment he realized something about that storm wasn't right. For some reason Marcus couldn't explain. He felt this weird urge to see the woods during the storm. So he grabbed his keys and drove to one of his favorite hiking trails. The place was extremely secluded. Even during the daytime, you almost never see another person there. That night, the snow was coming down so hard it looked like static on a TV screen. His headlights were the only thing cutting through the gray wall of snow. When he finally pulled up to the trailhead, he shut off the engine. And instantly, everything went silent. You know that kind of silence, where it almost makes your ears ring. Marcus stepped out of the car. His boots sank deep into the snow. Crunch, crunch, crunch. He started walking toward the tree line. And without realizing, Marcus was standing in a small clearing, just looking at the snowfall. When suddenly, he heard something. A tiny voice. Very faint. "Hi." Marcus froze. He slowly turned around, scanning the trees. Nothing. Just dark pine trunks and fallen snow. He told himself it was probably the road, or maybe the wind. But then, it happened again. Ah. This time it was closer. Marcus felt his heart skip. Then a third voice spoke. But this one sounded wrong. Playful. But distorted. "Up here, silly." Marcus slowly tilted his head upward. And the moment he did, his stomach dropped. Sitting on a branch way up in the tree was a boy. Maybe 9 years old. At least 30 or 40 feet off the ground. Just sitting there. In the freezing snow. And the kid wasn't wearing a coat. Just staring down at Marcus. With this huge unnatural ear-to-ear grin. But then Marcus noticed something that made the situation even worse. He looked down at the snow below the tree. It was completely untouched. Perfect. No footprints. No ladder marks. No climbing marks. There was no possible way that kid could have gotten up there. The boy just kept staring down, slowly waving his hand. But the way he waved, it looked mechanical. Almost like something trying to imitate a human. Before Marcus could even speak, the boy suddenly stood up on the branch. He looked straight into Marcus's eyes, and smiled wider. Then he said, "Watch this." And without hesitation, he leaned backward. Marcus watched in pure horror, as the boy's body dropped through the branches, falling, until it hit the frozen ground with a heavy thud. Marcus screamed and ran toward him. But the moment he got close, the boy's body suddenly snapped upright, unnaturally fast. Then he sprinted into the woods, laughing. Not like a kid, like something completely insane. Marcus immediately turned and ran back toward his car, snow flying under his boots, his heart pounding. But he didn't make it far. Suddenly, something slammed into his back. Hard. Marcus collapsed into the snow. The boy had jumped from behind a tree and latched onto his neck. But he wasn't asking for help. He wasn't crying. He was clawing at Marcus, digging his fingernails into his skin like sharp hooks. Marcus managed to throw the kid off. He scrambled backward and looked up. The boy wasn't running anymore. He was moving on all four, scuttling backwards into the trees, while that distorted laughter echoed through the forest. When police arrived later that night, they found Marcus shaking, his neck covered in deep scratch marks. They searched the entire forest. Thermal cameras, tracking dogs, everything. They found Marcus's footprints. They found the disturbed snow from the struggle. But there was one thing they didn't find. Any other footprints. Not a single one. According to the official report, Marcus was the only person in those woods that night. But Marcus knows what he saw. And since that night, he has never gone back into those woods again.